is a artist and guided user interface artist. So, Oscar, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hey everyone. Yeah, my name is Oscar. I've been working in the industry for about 12, 13 years. I studied in Vancouver in a school that is called Barnard. I don't even know if it's still around. I studied VFX and then got hired right away uh, by Electronic Arts in Vancouver to do lighting in a game called Skate. And then it was a contract for, I don't know, 6 months or something like that. But the contract ended. They hired me full time, and I stayed at EA for about 4 or 5 years. Then moved to Montreal to work at Ubisoft. Then Ubisoft Toronto, and about 3 years ago, I went freelance, and I do work for film, games, broadcast, all that fun stuff.
Cool. Did you say you worked on Skate?
Yeah, the first skate.
Wow, going
Yeah,
back
yeah,
quite a bit.
yeah. I did lighting on that game. I remember thinking it looked great, and I saw I saw a video of it probably last year,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, the graphics are so bad now, but at the time it was pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a huge Skate fan, so that's really cool to know. Um,
Yeah, it was good to be there and like meet all the skaters and everything.
yeah. Um, so what drew you into this like digital motion graphics area as opposed to other mediums?
It was kind of I fell in it by accident because, like I said, I studied visual effects. I wanted to do. I was confused when I went to school. I entered to this animation class thinking that I will learn all the uh, render tricks and like how to make shaders and make the product look pretty. But animation was just animation, and the tasks were to just animate gray characters. So after a month and a half in that class, I as a teacher we were going to get to learn all like lighting and texturing and style frames and all that. And he said that that was more on the VFX side of things. So I switched. Um, and like I said, then instead of starting on movies, I started in games because they wanted Skate to have this cinematic look to it. They wanted like cinematic lighting, and then after doing that, an art director at EA saw. I don't know. I think I did my reel, and in my reel, I paid more attention on the transitions and like title cards and everything, like all the details that were not part of the actual content that I was showing. He saw that, and then he asked me if I wanted to go to the design team, and then there I learned everything about motion graphics. Like uh, had nothing. It had nothing to do with lighting anymore. It was 2D and 3D animation to to make things like to make, I don't know, title sequences for the games or screens in the game. And that's how I ended up doing that, just by working on an actual project.
Wow, that's pretty incredible. Like you you didn't really find your niche until you were already in the industry.
Yeah, I thought I was going to be a lighter for movies and games, and then yeah, it didn't
I
happen
mean,
that way.
it suits you, so you're pretty good at it apparently.
Thanks, man. I
um,
appreciate that.
so I would say like looking at your portfolio, some of the work you do, in a lot of ways, it's something I would like to pursue. Um, do you have any advice for artists wanting to pursue kind of motion graphics and interface?
Yeah, I mean, just you probably heard this before, but just do like work on personal projects, try not to repeat yourself, try not to do what everyone else is doing. Like it's perfectly fine to look at studios and designers that you like for references, and as a like trying to match the quality. This is tricky. You want to match the quality of the work but not make the work look the same, you know what I mean? Like find those little things, like um those little details that people are adding, even film grain, you know, that changes the whole image. It adds a layer of quality. Or maybe the lines, like some a designer that you like, his images are a little bit blurred and everything is not complete, like super sharp. Things that you have to really study the images or the videos that they're doing, and try to learn from that. Like maybe like I said, don't do that, but find those little details that will make your pieces stand out. And then just work on personal projects. Like do a brief. Like if you were your own client, make a brief for you, give yourself a week or two, make the project, and yeah, just put it out there. Most of the client work that I get, it comes from personal projects. And actually, if you go to my site, not a lot, like probably 90%, 80% of the work there are personal projects. I have very few client projects, and the reason why I do that is because I realized that when I had client work there on my site, other clients will approach me and ask me to make something look like another project that I had, that it was already, I had already done that for a client. So styles ended up being recycled, same looks, same effects. So, and sometimes were like the projects that they were asking me to replicate were not my favorite ones. So I decided to take most of the client work uh, down and just put personal pieces, thinking I want to do more work like this. So I just show work that I want to do, and then it worked because they stop referencing pieces for other clients, and they just have the option to reference a piece that I did, right? That way I get to do like what I like, or I keep doing my working on my style or finding new styles. Um, but yeah,
Yeah, that's important having like projects on your portfolio that you actually had fun working on. You don't want to, you know.
yeah, don't play like I seriously don't put stuff that you don't want to do, because I don't know why, but people will ask you to do that. So just show the kind of work that you have fun doing, and that you're proud of. Um, Again, my portfolio is probably shows 10% of the stuff that I do, because it's just that 10% that I think is worth showing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a follow-up question kind of about your portfolio site. Did you make it yourself actually, or did you have it commissioned by somebody? Or
No, it's a Behance. Sorry, not Behance, an Adobe portfolio. They have those templates already made. For years, I used to design my website and then hire someone to code everything. And every time I wanted to change like the tiniest thing, it I had to change code, which I don't I don't like. I hate doing that. And also, I noticed that clients don't really care how fun. I mean, they care that it's well presented, but they don't care if it's, I don't know, if you have music, if you have crazy transitions. Uh, they just want to see clear images. of what the work is, a quick explanation. When I was an art director at Ubisoft, I learned this. Like you just don't have time to look at all the pretty things that people worry to put in their websites, right? Like if you have animation, if you have, like I said, transition, sometimes the reels, we don't even play the music. We just scroll through them, and if something catches your eye, you're like, okay, I want to see more of this. So I ended up using one of the templates that Adobe provides, and a lot of friends that work on the industry, they do the same.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I really like the layout. Like the work is forward. It's like I think it's really cool.
Yeah, man, that's all them. That's Adobe.
Okay, good to know.
I just picked one of the templates, and that's it.
Okay,
Super easy to customize.
yeah, I've never used Adobe Portfolio, so I'll probably have to do that. Okay.
Yeah, it's good.
So, what would you consider to be the hardest part of your job?
The hardest part would be not to repeat what you already. Oh, nice. Not to repeat what you already did. It's easy to go back to the tricks that you know work and work well, right? And you know people will like it. People like that look that often uh, often can like whip out in 5-10 minutes, but then you end up doing the same. So the hardest part is to force yourself to do something new, something that you're not comfortable with. And yeah, I've heard other people dealing with difficult clients, but honestly, I've been very lucky. And if also, I'm pretty straightforward. If something's not working out, the first in the first week, I say something. Uh, I say what I think it's slowing me down, or maybe I tell them, I'm not getting enough direction, or the feedback is it's not telling me anything. And sometimes it's a matter of telling them, like, you know what, it's not working out. It's fine. It's not anyone. It's not anyone's fault. It's just there was not chemistry there, and everyone's fine. Like sometimes they contact me back for another project, and that project works fine. So
Okay.
those will be the most difficult
Yeah.
parts of the job.
Sorry about my dog, by the way. She's trying to climb on my desk.
Oh man, that's no worries. I love dogs.
um, so, another question. What was your first job in the industry? I think you said this earlier, wasn't it at EA?
It
First job in the industry?
skate, yeah,
Okay. Wow.
yeah, doing lighting for skate.
Okay. And what was one of your favorite client projects that you worked on?
Um, Favorite client projects probably. There's a movie that came out last month or a couple of months ago called Project Power for Netflix. That was pretty fun. It was like doing interfaces for the screens that Jamie Foxx and I forget the other guy's name. They're using them, right? So that was fun to that was a fun one to work on.
Okay. I wrote that down. I'm gonna have to watch that later. Sounds cool. What methods do you use to practice and get better?
um Sometimes I go back to old pieces and like try to apply stuff that I learned from a new job, right? And see if it takes it to another level. I'm always trying to, like, on the free time that I have, I'm looking at classes, at tutorials. A lot of the Learn Squared classes are pretty good. Um, I ask friends, like, I have friends that are way better than me, so that's always good because you just ask them for advice, or you see something that that they did that you like, and straight up ask them like, "Hey man, how did you did this?" Uh, I've never in my experience, everyone has shared. No one is like, "Oh, it's a secret." Every time they're like, "Yeah, I did it like this." Sometimes they even send me a file, and vice versa. Like sometimes they ask me, and I send them the files or explain them. Or before COVID, we'll get together, friends that live around. Like they will come to the apartment and just like go through the files, have some beers. Um, so yeah, like just asking people that you whose work you respect, how they did something. Looking at work that it's outside of the motion industry, looking at movies, looking at paintings, books. Like I have tons of books that are just design but nothing to do with motion design. Like sometimes it's just a logo book. You see something there like a shape, and you can turn that into a hut, or like uh the shape of a spaceship, um but yeah, going through all those resources always helps.
Okay, that's a good answer. So I would say like a lot of your projects have kind of a cyberpunky style. Even like the Speed Animals movie you're working on. So like with glitchy edge and or glitchy text and like hard edge shapes. Where do you get inspiration from for many of your projects?
I would say movies, 100%. Like movies from I love the uh, I don't know, movies from the 80s and 90s, like that aesthetic where there's chromatic aberration because the lenses weren't that good. Um, I don't know if you guys know the movie Hit. It's from the 90s. Um, that movie is a huge had a huge has a huge influence in a lot of the stuff that I do. It has a certain look. Like the lights have this unique glare because of the lens that they use. Uh, the the grain, the colors. Yeah, all films, like films from the 80s, 90s, like Seven, for example. Um, Sometimes it's not on purpose. I end up uh, using techniques that look like those movies without realizing it. It's just my subconscious. Just I it's what I know and it's what I like, so it translates into my work.
Okay. Um, I have a few people in chat. I have a professor of mine, Professor Josh Polk, and somebody named John Man 30. He said, "Project Power is amazing. I love this man. Please let him know." So
That's awesome.
he loves you.
Yeah, I did that with Territory Studio. They're pretty cool. It's a pretty cool bunch of people to work with. That's awesome. I'm glad you liked it.
um, I noticed that you're collaborating with a few other artists on your Speed Animals project. So you're currently freelance in your own studio?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But that's actually a good example of what I said earlier. Uh, I knew I could do the three HUDs for the three different cars, right? But also I have these two friends that are super talented, Nicolas Lopardo and Neptali Cisneros. They work on games and movies too. So I asked them if they had some free time, if they were interested on designing the clusters for two of the cars. I was going to take care of the muscle car, and because of their personalities and the kind of work that they did, I knew Neptali was going to do the car from the 80s, and Nico was going to do like the futuristic car. They saw the brief for the project, and they're like, yeah, okay, yeah, we'll do it. They sent me some Illustrator files, and then I just tweaked some colors and animated them. And it was a good opportunity to just do something fun with them, right? Like, so they did stuff that I didn't think about, and I wanted that. I wanted to see their take on those two cars.
Yeah, that's cool.
And same for the title, like the actual design of the title. Um, Again, I knew I could do that, but I asked a friend who's like has a great eye for design. He's an art director at a studio called Golden Wolf. Um, there he's in New York, and the same. I showed him the brief. I asked him if he wanted to take a stab at the design of the letters and the of the title in general. And yeah, in 3 4 days we had some back and forths, and he did it. And I what I like about that, it felt like collaboration, and it ended up looking better than if I had done it all by myself. Because I mean I trust those guys, right? And the idea I had for the title was completely different. And then he came up with these handwritten letters. I'm like, all right, yeah, that's I like that way better than what I had thought about. So yeah, I try to work with friends
Yeah,
whenever I
I
can.
love that. Like the cars themselves are like more personal to the characters with the artist personalities and everything. That's really cool.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so next question, what would you say is like your dream project?
My dream project, um, probably, uh,
I can come back to it.
probably uh, something like Speed Animals, but done with an actual with a bigger studio, you know. Because that's kind of like a pitch for something I'm preparing, but at some point, if I want to make a pilot, for example, for that IP, I need to model the characters, and I don't know how to model characters. I've tried and I'm not good at it, so I will need a pipeline of a studio, you know, like give the brief, here's the art direction, have schedules for people that are modeling the cars, modeling the city, modeling the characters, and then put everything together. And I don't have the time. Like that will take me a year probably, but that'll be a dream project. And also something like Project Power. It was pretty fun, and I worked with good people, and people seem to have liked the movie. So it's pretty good. No complaints.
Okay, cool, cool. Um, could you give us kind of like an overview of your workflow, like pretty much beginning to end of a kind of I know you do a lot of different kinds of projects. Let's say like a guided user interface project, like how you did for your phone.
That yeah, I just saw what I the apps that I had on my phone. Thought about I didn't want to change any information. Everything like this the beauty of an iPhone, it's or any smartphone, is designers and engineers that know what they're doing did the best they could, right? So I didn't want to reinvent that. It's like reinventing the wheel. I just wanted to make a skin for it. So I made a style guide. Like, okay, it's gonna be hard edges and uh, just 3 or 4 colors. I set a limit for that, and then went icon by icon. Like, okay, how am I going to redesign the the sun, like for the temperature, right? how am I going to design like what's my take on the app on the icon for this app, sticking to these rules that I made for myself. What font do I want to use? What font size? It's going to be my limit. Just I stick to like two or three sizes, and then just work from there. Like when item by item, apply the rules that I made for myself, and then once I had the images, or I did an animation test just to see which direction I wanted to go, and then I applied that template to all the animations.
Okay. I'm currently I got it pulled up on your website, kind of showing it off on stream here.
Hmm.
So yeah, this is I really love this. Like
Thanks, man. Yeah, it
it's
was it
just
was it's like everything. I start with a style guide and stick to it. It's super easy to um, once you're in the middle of a project, you have seen it too much, so you get bored of it and you want to do something like completely different. Uh, so yeah, you just have to stick to the style that you started with. If not, you're never going to finish the project. And then save that new style and apply it to your next project, right? Like there's no limit for the amount of things you can do.
I got a question from chat here about the phone project. It's my professor. He wants to
Mhm.
know, does it actually work live on your phone or is it just a prototype?
No, it's a prototype. What I did is I just rendered a video on the size of my screen, and I pretended to use the interface. I don't think like I looked to it, but you cannot do that on an iPhone. It would have to be an Android phone.
Okay.
And yeah,
But yeah, I really love how you did like all those custom app icons and everything, but and how you mentioned like sticking to a style guide. It's kind of like making your own client briefing to stick more on
yeah,
task.
it's exactly that. Like you like when you're working with a client, it's they give you what it is, and I mean, depending on the project, but most of the time, it's you stick to that, you respect that, and you solve the. That's why they hire you to solve problems, basically, using the rules that they provided.
Yep. Um, I would say like in my opinion, Valorant has some of the best user interface of any game I've ever played. Like it's snappy, it looks good, it's like a really good mix of being really useful but also really beautiful to look at while sticking to the themes of the game. Could you tell us a little bit more about your role and how you worked with the team to make that interface?
Yeah, it was on Valorant. I was. They brought me more to like to focus on the look and feel of the animation, if that makes sense. It's just like how things will how the animation will feel for menus and for the HUD in the game, right? Um, the actual design, it was a collaboration with Neptali, the guy who helped me with the Speed Animals project. I met him working here in LA at Riot, and it was him, a couple of people from the internal team at Riot, and myself just going to a meeting room with a whiteboard, write the stuff that needs to be displayed, and literally just sketch on the whiteboard, right? Like see what shapes we like. Uh, Neptali took that and ran with a whole guide for these are the kinds of shapes we're using, and the transparency, the width for the lines, and then when once we had the guide that he did, it was super easy, right? Because we used if for every new screen we applied that look to the new information. Um, so I think the credit goes more to him for the way that that everything like looks, shape, the shapes, the colors, and to the art director, obviously. And yeah, that what I did was more, and I then took that and animated it, make those snappy animations. We wanted to feel uh, like cartoony almost, like also some of the references were that I gave him were like Bugs Bunny running, like the way he goes from one side of the screen to another, and you can see that in some of the lines, like when a menu opens, a couple of lines drop from top to
Oh
bottom.
yeah, I'm showing that on stream right now how they kind of stretch out.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and that's like that came from a Bugs Bunny animation of I think he was spinning or running, but yeah, that's what I mean when it's good to look at things that have nothing to do with the project that you're working on, right? Uh, if I knew that if I look to like sci-fi movies or other similar games, I was going to end up with something similar. And people seem to like this snappy, cartoony feel. And I think it expanded to the branding, like the commercials and even for the tournament, like all the material that they're making, it has that same snappy feel.
Yeah, I think it works super well for the game. So
Yeah,
yeah.
thank you.
Um, could you tell us a little bit about your journey through the industry from EA to Ubisoft to Riot and everything in between?
Yeah, like I said, I started as a lighter for skate. Then I moved to the graphic design team for a couple of the Need for Speed games. Um, I wanted to be an art director for when I was at Need for Speed, but the studio that I was in closed, so they let us all go. That's why I moved to Montreal because Ubisoft hired me for Splinter Cell. Uh, yeah, I don't remember which Splinter Cell it was, but um, there I again I was in the graphic design team on the graphic design team, and I moved up to I tried concept art a bit at Ubisoft. Tried to move up the ladder until I came to Toronto because Ubisoft opened another studio here, and then I became a presentation director at Ubisoft. What that means is it's an art director but focused on the graphic design part of the game. So it ranges like from the cover to the design of the title to title screens to menus to graphic design that you see in the game, like uh, you know signage and everything related to graphic design. Uh, I had a team of designers. I was art directing for a number of years, but then
Uh oh. Your
oh,
audio cut out for a sec. You're good now. Can you hear me?
you hear me
Yeah.
now? Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, the last game that I worked on, it's coming out in a few weeks. It's Watch Dogs 3. Um, but doing that art directing, I was not doing. I was managing most of the time, so I was not hands-on anymore. You make a guide, your team makes all the cool stuff, and you just have to make sure everyone's happy and that the work is good and on time. And also the like games take a long time to make. Like I've been in games that last 3 to 5 years, and it's hard to work on the same stuff for that amount of time. to see the same thing in your screen. Um, you just at least it's also a personality thing. Like I know people that don't mind it. I know people that love it, and I know people like myself who I just get tired of looking at the same stuff. So that's why I decided to quit. Like in games, especially art directing, you don't have time for nothing else. So it's not like I could come home and work on another client work. You don't have the time, and contracts rarely allow it. Um, and yeah, so I just got a bit tired of it. I wanted to be able to touch more like a variety of work, try different styles more often, and freelancing allows that, right? Like some jobs last 3 months, some jobs last a week. So there's always an opportunity to reset, start from zero with another client. What they want is completely different to the thing that you just finished. So you're always staying fresh. And but it helped me. It helped a lot to be in a studio because I learned about how to manage a team, how to deal with a budget when it comes to a project and when it comes to personal finances, right? Like I knew the amount of money I could live with because that was my salary. And when I switched to freelance, I tried to stick to those rules, right? Like not because you're making more or less money, like or more money, you have to spend more. I knew like okay, I was living fine with this amount. There's no like that shouldn't change. So I pay myself. I give myself a salary. Um, so yeah, it helped a lot. Like also to deal with people. You know, you at Ubisoft, the team was probably 70 people. So there's a lot of different personalities in that group, and it taught me how to deal with a lot of those personalities, right? So I would recommend working in a studio instead of going straight to freelance. Um, yeah, socially it's good. You get to meet people. You learn from others like really easy because you're surrounded with people that are super talented, right? So literally, you have a question about rendering, lighting, animation, and the person next to you can help you. When you're alone in just in your studio, it's just like Google is your it's the only one you can ask to. So yeah, it's a good experience to be in a studio for sure.
Yeah. About variety, I've heard other artists say that. So I talked last or a few weeks ago to Jonah Loeb, who worked on Skyrim, and he said a similar thing to how like he felt like being in a studio for so long kind of stagnated his personal growth. So he
Hmm.
eventually moved to freelance and did his own
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. I mean, I second that. Like it's also because you're 8 or 10 hours of the day you're looking at the same thing and you're in meetings. So when you come home, you don't want to come to the computer, right? You want to come to, I don't know, your partner, your pet, your just chill and watch TV or go outside and do like run whatever you like to do. And so as a freelancer, it's having that reset every couple of weeks of every couple of months. It makes it easier to work on your own stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I've got a question here from my professor, Josh Polk. He says, I'd like to hear how he makes his HUD animations, including software used. Do you start with sketches, Illustrator for the line work, then animate everything in After Effects, or other cool tools or plugins that help with those?
Yeah, I can. If I share my screen, um
Yeah, go for it.
everyone can see it.
Yeah. One sec.
Okay, let me. Oh, it's asking me
Oh, do I have to give you
to
permission?
no, it's just asking me to quit in order to share the my screen. I don't know why. How can I do this? Let me see. Hmm. Yeah, it's my system preferences. It just asked me to quit and restart to in order to share my screen in Zoom.
No.
Um, okay, so yeah, I start with sketches in my notebook or my sketchbook, super rough, right? Just to look for shapes that work with what I have in mind, uh, and then move to Illustrator. And the way I work, I know people make like I have friends that make a library of shapes, right? I move straight to the design of the HUD. It's like, okay, if a game or a movie wants a HUD that's for a like a spaceship, I go straight to like my canvas, and using those sketches that I did in my notebook, I use the same shape language for everything. And I go to I'm very careful of uh, showing the only the useful information first, and then I add the fluff, right? So if the client tells me it's super important that people see how much ammo they have or where the damage is coming from, I do that first. So when you see the screen, it probably has 5 elements, but if those 5 elements are already strong, then when you add the fluff, it will look good, right? Then I put all my layers in order in Illustrator, import that to After Effects, just convert everything to shapes. That way you don't lose resolution. And yeah, just animate there. Like literally take all the elements that I did and play with masks or play with the stroke weight and or reveal, like, I don't know, for ammo, for example, just show an example to the client of if you have full ammo to empty, what does that look like? So change the colors, make add some accents that drag the eye of the player to the area of importance. And as for uh, software, I keep it in After Effects, Illustrator, sometimes for UI, sometimes Cinema 4D, but rarely, just in case I need something very specific. And I don't use plugins because a lot of the clients ask for the working file, and you don't want to give them a file where half of the things don't work because you use some plugins that they don't have, right? So I try to stay away from plugins.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty smart. I hope that was a good answer for you, Josh. I know I learned a lot from that. So, I noticed many of your projects include 3D assets, such as the little trick or treat project you did. What
Mhm.
methods do you use to get these 3D models and animate them?
For trick, let me look at that one. Um, for trick or treat, where is that? Oh. Yeah, I just I just did a I I went to cinema 4D to make the pumpkin. It was if you see the actual geometry, it's super simple. It's like a squished sphere with extruded with a little bit of extruded polygons to make the lines, the ridges, and all the detail comes from the texture in Octane. Uh, I painted like I laid the UV map for the pumpkin. I went to Photoshop, hand painted the texture for the pumpkin, and then just with normal maps, height maps, and reflection maps, like you achieve all those little details, right? And for the other pumpkins, I just grabbed the same one and squished it and stretched it and whatnot. Um, the background seems to catch the eye of people in that one, and it's just a painting. Like it's a painting made in Photoshop, and the lightings are separate pieces. So what I did is just I made a plane. I turned on the texture for the lighting for a couple of frames, and in Octane, like it reacts as a you can set it up to react as a light, so that way you get a it illuminates the pumpkin and the pumpkin field. And yeah, that was it. It's just a plane, a bunch of spheres, nicely textured, and the painting as a background.
Wow, it looks really great for how simple you said. Um,
Thanks, man.
so yeah, I really enjoyed that. Let's see. So when you're contracted by big companies such as I know you're freelance right now.
Hmm.
What is that like? The interview process like when they're trying to bring you on board as a freelance artist?
Um, there's no interview process as a freelance. It's you just get an email asking for your availability, your rate, and that's it. If they're calling you, it's because they already went through your portfolio. They know what you can do, or someone talked to them about you, like another client. The it's a really small circle. Like people know everyone knows everyone, right? So I've got jobs because someone that I worked with before told someone else that they enjoyed working with me, and then I get called. But yeah, there's not an interview per se. It's just are you available? Uh, what's your rate? We saw this project that you did. We're looking for something similar, and that's it. And when it's a full time job like at EA or Ubisoft, that's a proper interview. You go sit down, go through your portfolio together. They ask you what software do you use, how long did it take to make whatever piece you're looking at, what uh, portion of that did you did, or they ask you if you did everything. Um, they ask you what you would like to do if they ended up hiring you. And something that I started asking when I was art director at Ubisoft was, and no one asked me this before, uh, one of my first questions was, what would you hate to do? Like if I hire you, what's the worst thing that you could do here that you wouldn't enjoy? Because that makes it clear right away if the job is for the person or not, right? Um, and people seem to like that. Like sometimes they like most of the times they were not expecting it, so they would take a couple of minutes, and at first they would be like, "Oh no, I'm good with everything," right? And then as the interview will go over, they're like, "Well, I really hate UV mapping." It's like, okay, well, then I know what not to give you, right? And if we need a person that needs to make UV maps, then it wouldn't be fair to hire you because you're gonna be unhappy. So yeah, that's the process. And then if everything works out, then they call you back and you start working with them.
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. I was gonna ask a follow up question about the larger studios, so I'm glad you answered that. I've got another question from my professor here. He wants to know, when you run teams, are you looking for like what stands out the most on a portfolio?
Depends on the job, right? Like sometimes you need a modeler, uh, and you get 5 portfolios of amazing animators, amazing concept artists, but you like there's no reason and but their skills in modeling are not that good. So you don't call them not because they're not good. They're obviously super talented in other areas, but not in what you need at the moment. So I would say it depends of the needs of the project. Um, Most of the time, it's looking at personal project. You know the sense of style of the person, right? You know what they like. You know, like you can tell which movies they like. You can tell the sense if they have a sense of humor or not, right? And most of the times the personal projects are done just by one person who's making it, so you know you can clearly see the skills that they have. You know if they can light, they can model, if they can animate. So yeah, it's great. It depends greatly on the project.
Okay, good to know. I hope that answered your question properly, Josh. It sounded pretty good to me. Let's see here. When you aren't making art, what do you like to do in terms of hobbies?
I go kayaking a lot. There's a lot of lakes here in Canada, so yeah, I go kayaking almost daily if I can. Go like hang out with my wife, watch some movies, or she goes kayaking with me. Um, get together with friends. I mean, it was way easier before all this mess, but yeah, go for dinners with friends. Talk about even if it's a bunch of friends that do the same thing, that animate or illustrate or whatever. No one touches the subject of work. You talk about everything but work. It's you don't want to be uh, talking about that even in your free time, right? And that's really important.
Yeah, really important for mental health. I
Yeah,
totally get that. Um,
yeah.
Josh had a follow-up question. He said, on the flip side, what are things you see, this could be in the portfolio or even in interviews, that let you know that you don't really want to work with that person?
Mm, in the portfolio, it's easy. Like it's the like if the quality is bad, then you skip it, right? If there's let's say the portfolio or the reel have 10 pieces or 15 pieces, and 12 of them are really good, but there are a couple that are really bad. It makes you doubt the sense of um, like that sensibility for good taste of the person. It makes you wonder like why did she or he left that piece which is really bad in there. Like does the person doesn't see that it's bad, and that's a red flag, because then you need people that are sharp, that can recognize, basically that have good taste, right? And then in the interview process, after 10 minutes with the person, you know if he or she are going to be a problem to work with. There's a lot of ego. If if they're just interested on, I don't know, like if they don't, if you ask them for people that they look up to, and they tell you that there's no one like them, stuff like that, you're like, all right, you just don't want to work with a person like that. And again, you can sense if there's a sense of humor, if there's a chemistry, right? So you know your team, you see the person that you're interviewing, and you make the connection. Like, okay, I know there's going to be a clash in between this person and these other guys that are already in the team. Sometimes even if the person has great, like it's super talented, I've been there a couple of times. We didn't hire them because they were dicks. Like they were just, you wouldn't, they were not enjoyable to be around. So it's like, all right, we can get someone that's maybe a little bit less better, but I'm going to enjoy hanging out with them. Like after work, I want to go and hang out with them to a bar or to a restaurant. And at the end, it's people that you spend 8 to 10 hours daily with. So you need to like them.
Yeah, I've heard others say the same. Um, so how do you avoid burnout working on art every day, sometimes for 8 to 10 hours?
Mm, when it's a client, at least in my case, there's no option. It's just I deliver what I need to deliver. I turn off my computer, and then that's it. I don't want to do nothing. Or like I said, I go kayaking to like paddling to the middle of the lake. Um, when it's happening in personal projects, I just leave it. Like I leave it. Sometimes I don't turn the computer for 3 days, and I do something else, and I find out that when I come back, I'm like, okay, uh, I was basically tired of saying the same thing. Or sometimes you run to a blocker or a problem, but you're like, you have the solution right there, but you're so close to it that you don't see it. You step away, you take a shower, in the shower you're like, oh, I know how to, for example, the clouds on that trick or treat piece. At first I was thinking of doing this volumetric clouds in 3D, and I was thinking like how long it was going to take to render and how the light was going to react. And then I went to do something with my wife. I'm like, oh, this can be a painting, and that's it. I control everything, and it worked out. So that's,
Yeah, that's a good answer. Kind of jumping off the burnout question, a friend and a colleague of mine said doing freelance work and making illustrations for other people has turned her beloved hobby into her worst enemy. Have you ever felt this way? And if so, how did you overcome it?
um, it happened to me when like I said, when I was in games, because I didn't want to come home and do the same. Um, and when it, like, I don't know, honestly, being freelance, it hasn't happened because I do what I want to do when it comes to personal projects. So, well, maybe, yeah, maybe this is a way to answer it. Like, I worked on projects where the client is asking for something that I know will not look good, or like in my opinion, or they want to, or they focus on things like this color needs to be that, and there's no other way. And you're like, you don't agree, but you're like, okay, you're paying me. It's your project. I stopped worrying about that and trying to change their mind. And I just did what I learned to do what they're asking for, deliver it. I know I will never show it in my portfolio. I make peace with that. I'm like, this job was for the money. It will allow me to live for the next couple of months. That's it. That's a perfectly good reason to do it. Uh, I'll take that energy in my project, right? Like I'll take care of my personal project. I will make it look that energy that I wanted to put on this person's or this company's project to make it look good. I'll put it on mine because they were not interested, and it's fair. They might have a good reason, right? But basically, don't worry about it and worry about your own work.
Yeah, that's a good answer. I'll have to show that to my colleague if she's not watching right now. Um, do you have any advice for college students who want to take their art to the next level, whether it be motion or otherwise?
um, yeah, I think what I already said. Just study work that you respect or that you like a lot, and figure out why you like that so much, and try to like most of the time it's nothing too it's not a lot. It's two or three details that artist or designer or whatever you want to call them are adding to their pieces that take it to the next level. Sometimes it's like a flare, not like a cheap lens flare, but like um, a flare used with purpose. And then you're like, oh, it makes it look like there's a that this is being filmed by a real camera. I've never had that. I've never used that. Let me try and see how I can achieve that same look. How can I make this scene look like it's been shot by a real lens? Do I add a little bit of dust? Do I add a little bit of chromatic aberration on the side? Like it depends. This is just one example, right? Depends what you're focusing on. But let's say your goal is to make your image look like it's really being shot through a real life lens. Grab a camera and see the imperfections in the pictures you're taking, and don't replicate that, and it will take it to the next level. Like it will make it look like the real thing. um yeah, so and depends on what you're looking for, what you or what's that next level that you want to take it to. Like if it's something abstract, I don't know, it'll be probably the quality of the line work or the rendering. um but if it's something that you know you like already, like that, like the camera, grab a real camera and replicate that and see if that made it for you.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good answer. I'm gonna have to keep some of that in mind. Another question from Josh here. Do you work with developers for creating interfaces? And please describe how your work fits into the process of creating something for a game or an app or other interactive type of projects.
Yeah, I work with well, I cannot mention the company, but recently I made some concepts of interfaces for a game, and and they what they did was show me they needed three different styles, one for each character of the game. They send me concept art of the characters. They send me like a biography for each one of the characters, um, and I use that to inform how the interface is going to look for each one of the characters, right? Like okay, if they depending on their bio, maybe I can pick some colors depending on the concept art. If I see like the suit or the skin color, I use those pieces to inform the interfaces, and in order of and then I work on that, send them like images of, okay, this is what the interface for each one of them looks. They review it. Sometimes they want little changes, like what I said, like, oh yeah, it's cool, but maybe the font is too small, or maybe we need to see how it looks when you're getting hit. So you just keep adding after the reviews, after the feedback, and then yeah, you reach a point where you provided all the images that they needed. You solved the problems that they came uh, that they needed to solve, and I give them the project files, and I don't take care of any of the implementation. They just take what I make, grab the pieces that they like, grab the pieces that are useful for them, replicate them in the game, and a programmer takes care of making everything work, right? And it's more, so my role is more of a concept artist when it comes to interface design. Like I just give them, okay, this is how they should look like. Take what works for you, and then yeah, they just make put that in the engine and make it work.
Okay. I'm gonna have to go turn my light on real quick. It's getting pretty dark here in
All
Indianapolis,
right.
so I'll be right back if you'll excuse me. Okay, much better. So, kind of jumping off of that question about developers, when you're working with them, typically, can they create just about anything you give them, or are there certain limitations to the platform you have to think about?
No, games are still very like it's crazy how limited they are still when it comes to interfaces. I think because like the tools for that haven't evolved that much. At Ubisoft, some of the teams were using Flash, for example, and I they don't even make that anymore. Um, so like I said, my role is more of a concept artist when it comes to those type of jobs, and they know beforehand, like on the first calls or the first emails, they tell me we don't want you to feel limited by the technology that we have. We want you to do what you do, like go, even if you know that it's not possible to make it, to replicate it in the engine, do it, and maybe we can figure out a way, like we can do it, like we have a trick or something, but we don't want they don't want to miss an opportunity just because of the limitations that they know they have, right? um but it's rare that an interface looks exactly the way you did it in the final game. Like even if it's the transparency or the blending mode, it something is not going to be there, but it's not their fault. It's just the limitations of the technology.
Wow, that's cool. I didn't know it was limited like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. What piece of art would you say has had the greatest impact on you as a person, whether it be movies, TV, or otherwise?
Probably like I mentioned before, that movie hit, and what else? Oh, the Last of Us games one and two, like they're to me they're masterpieces. You know, like they look great. The story is great. Like it's crazy to me that the acting is better than acting that I've seen in some movies. Uh, so I would say those two games. Uh, the two Red Dead Redemption games, and yeah, probably that movie hit. And there's a my favorite movie that almost no one. Uh, I think it flopped. So it's called Out of the Furnace with Christian Bale, and yeah, it has that, like, I think the story is good, and it has that quality, like that every shot could be a poster, for example. Like almost every shot of the movie, I could hang in my place. So for me, being a visual person, that's super enjoyable because I'm liking the story and I'm really like enjoying the visuals. Um, and yeah, going out helps a lot. Like you'll see things that inspire you all the time. Like maybe you see an interesting person in the street and you want to go home and sketch that person, or uh, yeah, you talk to someone and that conversation sparked something that can turn into a motion piece. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's cool. I think that's a really good answer. Um, what job have you worked that has posed the greatest challenge?
Probably um, Watch Dogs 3, because of the limitation that because of the tech limitations, right? Like the team was what the people in the team were creating these amazing designs and amazing animations. Um, and when it was time to put that in the game, it didn't look the same. And so it was always frustrating, like knowing people on the outside will never know, right? Like they will see the game and they're like, oh yeah, it looks. Maybe they like it, maybe they don't, but they think that it is what it is. Like that's the best they could do. Uh, but when you're in the inside, you're like, oh man, this thing looked 10 times better, but we couldn't do it. So that's frustrating.
Yeah, I imagine. Um, have you ever received any advice that's changed your life as an artist? And if so, what was it?
Mm, Probably stop caring, like what I mentioned before. Uh, if you already mentioned 2 or 3 times to a client that, well, mentioned and showed, right? Like sometimes you just don't mention something saying you think it will be better. You need to show the piece to the client and say like, look, this is what you asked for, and I would like to uh, suggest this. And you can see the pieces. The suggestion is better, right? Um, if it keeps getting rejected, then stop caring and work, like save that energy for um, for your own project, and also make uh, be comfortable not showing everything you do. Like worry about making things for you instead of for other people. Especially now, like you go to Instagram, everything is there's pieces that look amazing, um, and you just like it hits you. You just get depressed, like oh man, this like, everyone's doing things that are better than me, than the stuff that I'm doing. Uh, so don't compare yourself to others and do stuff for you. Like it was a surprise when the Speed Animal things was released. People that I admire a lot, they were telling me, "Oh man, you're doing what I want to do." So it was funny because in my eyes, they're doing what I want to do. So just don't compare yourself to others. Like like not to say don't look and get inspired. Just don't feel bad if other people are doing great stuff. Like just get inspired by it.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. Like, it's kind of difficult not to compare yourself to others and think that you have to be better. Like, it's important just to do what you love to do and have fun doing it. So, yeah,
Yeah, definitely keeps you sane.
yeah, exactly. If you could meet one person, living or dead, who would it be?
um it will be Nicolas Cage. I
Okay.
would like to party with that too.
Yeah, he. It seems like they would be interesting. Why
Yeah,
Nicolas Cage specifically?
I don't know. The dude looks crazy. Like I will tell him, let's do whatever you want to do. I don't care. No, like he looks like an interesting. Like it looks like you wouldn't be bored
Mm-hmm.
doing whatever at a dinner, driving around. Like you know.
Josh says you can find the Declaration of Independence together.
Yeah, there you go.
Mm-hmm. So, we've been rolling for about an hour and 16 here. I'm starting to run a little dry on questions, to be honest.
Mhm.
Do you have any final words of wisdom for our audience?
Uh, well, just that. Like work on personal projects. I promise they will bring you work, like paid work, doing what you like to do. And yeah, put all. I mean, give your 110% in your work or studying other people's work, but also uh, always have in mind that there's more to this. You know, like we're not saving lives and we're not curing cancer. It's when you think about it, we're getting paid to draw or design. So just it should be fun. You shouldn't make you angry. You shouldn't be frustrated. Uh, and yeah, just remember to step away from it every now and then. Hang out with people. That will bring more inspiration than looking at Instagram all the time.
Yeah. One more question from Josh. He says, curious what you would recommend to fresh graduates wanting to do freelance. How would they get their portfolios noticed? Or if there are any places to put your work to look for jobs?
Big hands for sure, and a lot of emails that I get come from Behance, and send your work to studios. Like even if you think they're not gonna hire you because they're your favorite studio or this amazing studio that you might think you're not good enough for, send them work. You'll be surprised uh, how many, like everyone in the industry, most people in the industry are really nice, and they might see something, like even if it's a 3-second piece of your reel or one piece of your portfolio, that they it might be specific to a project that they're working on. You never know. So just be hands, make a list of studios that you like, blast away. I got to work with one of my favorite designers because he saw uh, the intro of my reel, and that's what he liked. He was like, "Oh, I'm working on a project that needs this kind of vibe," and it was literally 3 seconds that he saw. So you never know.
Yeah, yeah. So it's been a pleasure having you. Thank you so much for taking your time out and giving us this like amazing advice. So yeah, I'm about to go offline here. Thank you so much for coming. And Oscar Mario,
Pleasure.
everybody. So
Thanks
thank
for
you.
having me. It was great. It
Yeah.
was a good time.